Hi everybody, Dan Bailey here with another super fun Fujifilm camera tip for you. Today we're going to talk about Fuji's newest film simulation, which is called ETERNA Bleach Bypass. Since the initial launch of the X series back in 2011, Fuji has introduced a new film simulation every couple of years. A while back it was Classic Chrome, then ETERNA, a year and a half ago was Classic Neg, and now with the launch of the X-T4 last year, they brought us ETERNA Bleach Bypass. This is designed to complement the original ETERNA, which is based on Fujifilm's longtime motion picture film of the same name. The name comes from the process by which filmmakers would skip the bleaching process during processing of their motion picture film. And this ends up leaving the silver halide crystals in the film and the film dyes intact. And the result is that you end up with a black and white image over a color image on the stock. And the visual result is even lower saturation than the original ETERNA, but with increased levels of contrast and grain. And you end up with a color image that almost looks like black and white. It's actually very close to monochrome. With a dynamic range that's very similar to what you see in Classic Chrome, ETERNA Bleach Bypass gives you this look that straddles the boundaries between black and white and color. And it's a look that I've been experimenting with for years when I play around with the color and contrast settings in the Q menu, like the highlight and shadow tone and color controls. In fact, in Fujifilm's own words, ETERNA Bleach Bypass delivers a hard, serious image that, apart from being in color, resembles black and white photographs. So even in their own words, that's the effect they were going for. That's the very look they were striving for, and that's the look that people had been getting when they did the actual bleach bypass process when they shot with regular motion picture film. When I'm out shooting, I love looking for scenes that lend themselves to this kind of look. And with Fuji's lower saturation film sims, like I mentioned, ETERNA, Classic Chrome, Pro Neg Standard, and even Classic Neg to some extent, I like to create looks that straddles that border, that gives you both looks in the same image, that gives you elements of color and black and white. In my mind, it's a look that's the complete antithesis of Velvia. I've talked a lot about the concept of abbreviation in photography, where you pull back and invite your viewers to imagine the rest of the scene and fill in the blanks of what you left out. In a sense, abbreviation is just another way of describing that less is more aspect of creativity and image making, where you're removing part of the content and inviting your viewers to, like I said, fill in the blanks and imagine what isn't there. And with this technique, you can even remove the color, and that's what black and white is. You introduce a lot of imagination and invitation for your viewers to engage their brains when they're looking at a black and white image. And so with ETERNA Bleach Bypass, you're doing the same thing. You're removing most of the color, not entirely, so it does give it a very unique look. And anytime you reduce or remove the saturation entirely from a photograph, you invite your viewers to look at it a different way. And it does have a very significant effect on the way that your viewer will see and interpret your image. Now, sometimes just removing the saturation can end up leaving your photo looking a little bit bland. And so oftentimes we'll add in more contrast and increase the dynamic range to help add more life to the shot and more drama. And so that's exactly what ETERNA Bleach Bypass is doing. It's pulling the color and saturation levels almost all the way back, but it's keeping the dynamic range relatively high, and again, that helps the photograph retain a certain level of drama and excitement. You can further accentuate or de-accentuate this effect with a shadow tone adjustment right inside the camera, and as you can see, I've done that for a couple of these photos here. When you have a scene that already has moderate to heavy shadows, increasing these gives you the Velvia look, but without the color. It's really interesting because no other film simulation does this in this exact same way. As I mentioned, ETERNA Bleach Bypass was first introduced into the X-T4 last year, and the X-T4 was positioned as a very capable video camera. So in a sense, ETERNA Bleach Bypass was primarily designed as a movie-making film simulation, but it obviously works exceptionally well with still photographs. I usually love shooting aerials in full color with Velvia, but I've been really intrigued by going in an opposite direction and shooting ETERNA Bleach Bypass aerials. I think they have a really cool look, really characteristic feel to them, and a lot of drama. I look forward to pushing my creativity even more in this direction in the next few months and seeing what I get. And I'm curious to see how it responds to different subject matter, especially now that the snow's melting here in Alaska and we're starting to get bare ground and spring weather. So if you have an X-T4, an XS10, or an XE4, I encourage you to play around with this new film simulation and see what you get. If you don't have one of those models, you can try to play around with the settings inside the Q menu and replicate that. Richie from Fuji X Weekly has a couple of different recipes that you can use. Fuji X Weekly is a pretty cool site. If you haven't visited Richie's site, I encourage you to check it out. He's got a lot of different recipes on there, some of which try to replicate old film stocks, and some that just have a really cool look on their own. If you want a quick and easy approach, just try using one of the lower saturation film sims, like ETERNA or Classic Neg or Classic Chrome, and increase the shadow tone and decrease the saturation, or decrease the color. You can even bump the highlights up a little bit as well. Richie also mentions using a double exposure technique for creating a bleach bypass look, where you can do the first exposure in color and the second exposure in black and white and see how that looks. And whether you have ETERNA Bleach Bypass in your camera as one of the film simulations, or if you're just playing around with the color recipes in the X series and trying to come up with something similar, there's a lot of creativity that can be had with this kind of look. Okay, that's all for now. If you are a Fuji user, you'll definitely want to check out my best-selling ebook, X Series Unlimited. This 400-page guide shows you everything you need to know in order to get the best result and have the most fun with your Fuji. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it inspires some new creative ideas for you. Please subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other videos. Look for me on Patreon and social media at Dan Bailey Photo, and you can visit my blog and website as well. So have fun with your Fuji out there. I'll see you next time.